Rule number 31, live your life on purpose.
I was living in London and attending law school. I was becoming disillusioned with the law. I happened to be dating a girl who was in advertising. She said, you might like advertising, and boom, I have a career in marketing. Like, I fell into it. So many of us fall into our careers and fall into our jobs. And even if we do pursue something we want to do, sometimes it takes diversions, right? This is what I mean by living our lives by accident, which is we largely leave the direction of our careers and sometimes even our own happiness to others, our bosses, and all of that thing. So what it means to live your life on purpose means you understand the direction you're heading, but you remain agnostic as to the route. Most people try very, very hard to plan the route. In other words, what's your plan? And people say, well, first I'm going to work here for 3 years, then I'm going to quit and I'm going to do this, and then for 4 years, they got the route planned. And the question is, where are you going, right? And that to me is what it means to have purpose. It means to have destination, right? It's like waking up in the morning and saying, I'm going on holiday. And somebody says, well, where are you going? You said, I'm going on vacation, I told you. You're like, where are you going? Vacation, right? And so how are you going to get there? You're like, well, I'm taking Route 95. So you've got the route planned, but you have no destination. And you see this in companies all the time. Why does your company exist? Growth. Great. Why are you growing? Why do you need to grow? What does growth mean? Because we're a company, we have to grow. And so they figure out all of these paths for growth, but they don't know where they're going. I would rather someone wake up in the morning and say, California. I'm trying to get to California, and I don't care what route I take. I'm going to start down Route 95, and if I find a better route, I'm going to take it. If there's traffic on Route 95, I'm going to take a side road. So this is what happened in my career. People kept telling me that I was unfocused because I kept taking side roads. I wasn't unfocused. I was going around obstacles. So that's what it means to live a life of purpose. It means I live every single day of my life trying to get to an endpoint. In my case, to create a world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning inspired to go to work, feel safe when they're there, and return home at the end of the day fulfilled by the work that they do. That is the destination I'm trying to reach. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to try every path I can to get there. Highly, highly focused. That's what it means to live a life on purpose. We're often given this advice, like, do what you love.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Yes.
Like, find your passion. Like, thank you. Like, great. I don't know what to do tomorrow. For me, passion is the result of something, right? So if you work hard for something you don't believe in, that's called stress. And if you work hard for something you do believe in, that's called passion. So it's finding the belief, it's finding the cause, it's finding the purpose, and the passion then shows up. So it's not about doing something with passion and then finding the cause. It's finding the cause, starting with why, and then the passion is what results.
Rule number 32, be a courageous leader.
Number 2, it's embarrassing this has to be on the list, courageous leadership. Courageous leaders are the ones who are willing to sacrifice the short term in order to advance the long term. Courageous leaders are the ones who are willing to say no to the money because it's coming from a dirty source, and rather say yes, even though they know they'll have to tighten the belt in the short term because it's the right thing to do. Having a just cause, if we don't actually follow the just cause, if we don't actually make decisions through the lens of the just cause, is just marketing. It's just marketing. I'll give you my favorite example, right? The IOC, the International Olympic Committee, they have a mission statement, what they believe is their just cause, which is to advance the world, make the world a better place through sport. But for the fact that they're all corrupt, it's a great idea. My point is you actually have to have leadership that desperately, profoundly believes in the cause and will make decisions to advance that cause. They would sooner sacrifice their own personal interests to take care of their people. They would never sacrifice their people to protect their own interests. It's called leadership. It's called leadership. We confuse rank and leadership. Rank has nothing to do with leadership. I know many people who sit at the highest levels of organizations who are not leaders. They have authority, and we do as they tell us because they have authority over us, but we would not follow them. And yet I know many people who sit at lower ranks who have no authority, and yet they have made a choice, the choice to look after the person to the left of them, and the choice to look after the person to the right of them, and we would trust them and follow them anywhere. Leadership is the acceptance of the awesome responsibility to create an environment in which people can work at their natural best.
Rule number 33, talk about your beliefs.
I went to see a play with a friend of mine who is an actor, and the play was awful. I mean,
a train wreck. The script was awful, the directing was awful. I mean, it was an absolute train wreck. The question you asked was about collaboration, right? Should any of those actors have taken the part? Now, of course, if you're going to take a part because you need an extra cash, little extra cash, or you want to get a little extra practice, then you have to do so, I think, knowing I'm doing this for the money, or I'm doing this just to keep my skills sharp, but I'm under no illusion that this is something that I connect with, but I'm going to do the best that I can. And then don't lie to yourself, you know? The other problem is don't do that too often, because that'll just destroy any passion that you have for your medium, right? And I think, and we've talked about this, which is any artist, any person, but especially artists, have to know their why. You have to know why you're showing up in the first place. And you have to be able to talk about it. Because if you talk about it, things happen. People go, I like you, right? Now, you may not get the part, but you're more likely to find people who want to work with you, even if you're not the most talented one who auditioned. This is my career, by the way, right? When I learned to talk about what I believed, I didn't talk about the things I've done. I didn't talk about the parts I've had or the shows I've been in or who trained me or the schools I went to, resume, resume, resume. I learned to talk about what I believed. And some people thought it was cheesy. They didn't call me back. Good. And some people went, that's great. And I was not the most talented, not the most experienced, not the best at my field, but because they stood for or believed in what I stood for, they wanted to work with me. They would rather work with someone who understood them, who got them, more than somebody who would just take orders and do exactly what they wanted, regardless of facility.
Rule number 34, get help.
There's a paradox being a human being, unfortunately. At all times, every moment of every day, we are both individuals and members of groups, right? We are both responsible for ourselves and our own happiness and our own joy, but at the same time, we're members of families, we're members of churches, we're members of teams, we're members of companies. Like, we're members of multiple groups every single day, at every moment. And this produces some complications. We have to make decisions. So do we put ourselves first, or do we put the group first? And there's a debate. Some people say, oh, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of the group. And some say, no, 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 you take care of the group and that's what helps, they will take care of you. And the answer is yes. It's not one or the other, it's actually both simultaneously. It is a challenge. But at the end of the day, there's no getting around it. As social animals, our success, our happiness, our joy, our ability to get anything done requires help. And those who embrace the fact that they cannot do everything alone, that they need the support and love, and it doesn't mean somebody who's physically helping you lift something. Sometimes it might be someone who just believes in you. These things are essential and there's just no getting around it.
Rule number 35, have a worthy rival.
The next part is a worthy rival. Now, I said before that the only true competitor in an infinite game is yourself. This is true. What your competition does is it helps reveal to you your weaknesses. Admire the others in your organization, not to beat them, there's no such thing. Not to be number one, there's no such thing. But if somebody else is better than you at something, that means you have to go work harder yourself. It's like running in a race. If you're driven to be number one, if you're driven to make the most money, if you're driven to show up in some arbitrary ranking that you don't even have a say in, that's like tripping the next runner. You will win the race, but you're still a slow runner. Rather, fall behind this year, and then you work and work and work, because ultimately the goal is not to be number one this year. The goal is to create an organization that will outlast every single one of you. This is about building strong foundations. This is about looking long-term. And the short-term, money is simply fuel to make the car go. We don't own cars to buy more fuel. We own cars to go somewhere. It's the same thing in an organization. Your organization exists to advance something. The money is simply there to make it go. And I fear that what has happened in the university system is similar to what I'm seeing in business. It's similar to what I'm seeing in politics. It's similar to what I'm seeing in hospitals, which is the sense of excessive pressure to bring money in at the expense of something else. There's an excessive amount of short-termism and massive amounts of rationalizing. This is just the game. We just have to do it. If we don't, somebody else will. The obsession with getting grants, meaning you're hiring people who are more likely to help you get a grant, even though they're teaching things that we don't necessarily even need or want. That's called short-termism.
Rule number 36, focus on positive thinking.
These people always complain that, why can't I ever get that? And these people complain, I can never get a job. You're going to be stressed no matter what. Focus on the thing that you're getting, because that's the choice you made, right? I'd much rather you focus on the thing you are pursuing rather than the thing you're missing. And so this idea of affirmative thinking, positive thinking, is essential for all people, but I think it's especially essential for artists. And there's a very, very simple biological reason for it, which is the human brain cannot comprehend the negative. It is incapable. Yes, it's true. I'll give you an example.
I believe you.
Okay? No, I'll give you an example. You don't have to believe me. I'll prove it. I'll prove it. Okay? The human brain cannot comprehend the negative. You ready? Don't think of an elephant. Ah. Yeah, I know. You can't tell the human brain not to do something, right? And so what happens is we very often reinforce things when we put things in the negative, right? I can't get apart. I can't get apart. I can't get apart, right? Or I can't do this versus I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this, right? And it's such a huge thing to convert things into the affirmative. You're supposed to do it with children as well. We're supposed to say, instead of saying to children, don't eat on the couch, we're supposed to say, eat at the table. Right? We tell people what we want them to do, not what we don't want to do. Pilots know this, right? It is well known in the pilot community that when you tell a pilot, don't hit the obstacle, they'll hit the obstacle. Because what they're doing is focusing on the obstacle.
Rule number 37, do something new.
I went to this event, and just by sheer coincidence at the dinner, I'm sitting next to Dawn and Sam Goldworm, who run this company called 1229. And that's exactly what they do. Dawn is a master nose who used to work for Coty, the perfume company, so he used to produce all the famous perfumes that we all know. And they went off to start their own company where they design custom scents for brands. But the way to think about this is beyond sort of verbena and patchouli. The way Dawn explained it to me is there are 7 notes on the musical scale. And you can play chopsticks or you can play a Beethoven symphony. It's the same 7 notes. It's what you do with it. And she does the same thing with smell, which is you can have simple smells or you can have highly complex, ornate orchestras, symphonies, rather. And so they sat down with me and took me through a fantastic process, and they produced the smell of optimism. And it's the most beautiful thing. And the idea was born out of the fact that I'm sitting next to them at this event, and I turned to them and said, have you ever scented a book? Has that ever been done before? And they said, no, it's never been done. I said, well, we should really do that. And so, of course, my publisher was not excited to hear about that. But it's the first time that I know of that a book has ever been scented in this way. So it is a scented book. The smell of optimism is what you start with, and it sets you on your journey to enjoy the rest of the book.
Rule number 38, have a just cause.
I'll ask you a very simple question. Why does your organization exist? We don't need you. Clearly there's plenty of competition. Clearly people have plenty of choices. Even the things that you may specialize in, there are others that do a reasonably good job. They might even be better than you in some areas. So why do you exist? Providing education is table stakes. Everybody here does that. You can't rely on that. That's why the industry exists, not why your organization exists. That's like when I talk to healthcare companies and say, why does your organization exist? And they say, to help people be more healthy. Like, no kidding, thank you. But I know that the culture of one organization is different than the culture of another organization. There are cultural norms that wrap around the sense of purpose, cause, or belief. Great organizations understand their just cause, a cause so just that people would be willing to sacrifice to see the advancement of that cause. Sacrifice comes in many forms. It might mean working longer hours, giving you my best ideas, turning down a better job that offers me more money to stay here because I believe in what you're doing and I want to see that advanced. One of my favorite examples of a just cause is the Declaration of Independence. Our founding fathers declared, literally wrote down, they declared why we needed our own country. All men are created equal, endowed with these unalienable rights, amongst which include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They were never against Britain. The whole point is not to be against something, but to stand for something. Britain was simply standing in the way of them advancing their cause. And though they won independence, there are always finite games within the infinite game. Though they won independence, that didn't mean that they had now provided all men are equal. Now the real heavy lifting began. Now let's be crystal clear. When they said all men are equal, what they meant was white Protestant men. Let's be crystal clear. But even early on, during the Revolutionary War, George Washington understood how limiting that was, and he realized that they had to have a broader definition. So he included Catholics. He banned any organizing against Catholics in his armies, and he would regularly attend Mass to send the right message. Sometime later, we abolished slavery and the 14th Amendment. Sometime later, we had women's suffrage. Sometime later, we had Civil Rights Act. Sometime later, we implement gay rights. And you can see that we are striving to provide this thing called all men are equal, all people are equal. And though we will never actually get there, we will die trying. And the obstacles may always be different. And what a just cause is, it is a vision of the future that does not yet exist, and you will commit all of your energies to advance that vision of the world that you have. And the people you want to attract, both those who work there, those who teach there, and both those who come to learn there, believe in your vision of the future. So much so that they may turn down a better offer from someone else because they want to be around people who are committed to building this world that does not yet exist. And every single one of these organizations that you run and represent can have different visions or overlapping visions of the world. But you must be clear what your just cause is, what you stand for. Otherwise, the only thing I have to judge you on is superficial things. It's like dating, right? It's like dating. If somebody tells me what they stand for, who they are, they're talking about their character. And those are the people we want to spend the rest of our lives with. If we do not have any sense of who they are, what they stand for, what their purpose, what their cause, what their beliefs are, what their values are, the only thing we have to judge them on is how much money they make and how good looking they are.
Rule number 39, stand out from others.
I'm a huge modern dance lover. Like, that's the thing I love. And I don't go to the Joyce anymore because everything that they have on their stage is good. It's good. Everything is safe to me. They put things on their stage that's good. They sell tickets. Nothing's bad, and nothing's great. It's all good. I don't go anymore. I go to BAM a lot. I have seen things that have profoundly changed my view of the world, and I have walked out of more things at BAM. Literally, I'm like, I'm done. And my friend's like, you can't. I'm like, we can. You know? I have walked out of so many things at BAM, and yet I continue to go and continue to go and I continue to go because I know what they stand for. That's my preference. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying that's my preference. That I would rather take the risk of walking out knowing that I might get moved in a way that I've never experienced before, more than just go and have a nice night out and see something that I know is good. Right? And I think that goes for our careers as well. You know? Which is, if you choose to be the kind of artist that stands for something, that you want to be yourself and bring yourself into everything that you do, you will get fewer parts. You will. The parts you get will move you in a way that most artists will not get moved. Or you can bend and manipulate yourself a little bit and sort of be a little bit more of what they want and play their role. And even though you don't really buy into it, it's a part and I want to be an actor, I want to be a performer, I'm going to do what they want. You will absolutely get more parts without a doubt. You can arguably have a better career. But will you be profoundly moved as an artist? The odds are lower. It's not, I can't say never, it's just the odds are lower. It's not better or worse. It is simply the decision on how you choose to manage or lead your own career. Both are acceptable, right? One means you get to use your facility a lot. One means you get to work a lot. One means you might be able to do only your art and actually make a living. One means that you're going to be meeting a lot of people, and the odds are that you will connect with somebody at some point. Or you choose this route, which is much more difficult and is fraught with much more risk and much more struggle, but you become known for the thing that you are.
Rule number 40, be a problem solver.
I think the word entrepreneur is bandied about too loosely. That not everyone who owns a small business is an entrepreneur. There are small business owners and there are entrepreneurs.
What's an entrepreneur?
And you can find entrepreneurs in big companies. It doesn't mean that they're small business owners, right? I think entrepreneurs are problem solvers. I think...
Rather than risk takers?
Yeah. I think fundamentally, there are plenty of risk takers, I think, who are entrepreneurs. There's a risk taker if you're a small business owner, right? You went out to start the business, but they're not the same, I don't think. And entrepreneurs are those ones who, they're constantly looking to solve problems. And that's where I think they perceive opportunity or the mischief that you describe. I don't think inherently it's a sense of mischief. They're not trying to stir the pot for the sake of stirring the pot. I think that they see something and they're like, we can make that better or we can fill that hole. And that's very much the way the famous entrepreneurs, the Elon Musks and the Richard Bransons operate. They see gaps. They see things that don't work.
As did Jobs.
As did Jobs. They see things that could be better. I mean, Elon Musk was just interviewed by Chris Anderson at TED last week. And Chris Anderson, sort of near the end of the interview, it's online, go watch it, it's really great. Chris Anderson asks Elon Musk something to the effect of, why are you doing all these things? Like, why don't you just stick with Tesla and be done with it? Like, why do all the other stuff? And you look at, and Musk, you can see this look on his face, and he takes a long time to answer. He actually doesn't understand the question. He cannot understand why you wouldn't do that. And he sort of gets emphatic, which for Elon Musk is pretty amazing, because he doesn't get emphatic. But that's basically what it is. He gets emphatic and says, because I want to live in a world that's better than this, or words to that effect, you know, where I'm not, where the world that we're living in right now makes us unhappy. Why don't we want to live in a world that makes us happy? You know, he gets sort of, he can't understand, and again, it's vision first. And that's why he doesn't understand why you wouldn't try and solve problems.
Rule number 41, don't obsess with competition.
Company